interpreting information about market, about a product, about a service offered for sale in that market. Now, for me, what I realize is that market research, what I can compare it to, I compare it to sharpening an axe. Now, if you have, this is what I say, this is what I normally tell my clients, if you have 30 minutes to cut down a tree, I would advise that you spend 20 minutes really sharpening your axe, your blade, so that you spend even less time cutting it down. That's exactly what market research does companies. If you spend time gathering information about who it is you're targeting with your product or your service, then you are likely to be more successful faster than if you do it by trial and error. So it's worth our time. Market research is worth our time. Now, how does market research affect economic growth? In a lot of ways. Now, when we look at return on investment, lots of investors will say this: I'm willing to spend $1 million on a certain industry, but I need to know what I will get out of that $1 million. We call it return on investment. So even in advertising, that's what we see. Where there is a currency, where research is being done, then advertisers are able to say that, okay, I'll spend 1 million CDs, I'll spend 10 million CDs because I'll get this number of eyeballs. So if you really want to know exactly what returns you're getting on your investment, you have to conduct market research because you have to aim for something. You can't aim for the dark. The other thing that market research does as well is that it increases competition. And that's really great for the economy. What are we saying? We are saying that, okay, so for instance, I'm selling wache to some people at Teshinungu as an example. But then somebody else can do research and decide and find that, oh, okay, the wache, the people who buy wache like it even more if we put, okay, so maybe we don't put pepe on wache, but I'll say, so maybe we put a bit of pepe, then they will buy it even more. So I come in and put a bit of pepe and I steal somebody's market because somebody has not dared to find out how much their products are being valued or how they're being appreciated by the people that they're selling to. So there's increased competition. And I like it because I like this increased competition because it also gives chances to SMEs. We have seen countless times this happening. A big global company will be sitting pretty and happy doing business with in a certain market, but then based on research, a smaller company will conduct some research and create a niche that steals the market away from the big global company. So there is a place for research. It brings about, it facilitates competition. And then there's increased innovation. Our products and services will only get better the more we come up with new and different ways of meeting the need of the market. And that is a fact. So increased innovation is also a function of market research. Now, what is the proposed way forward? This is the proposed way forward. And for me, having this recommendation, not just to the global companies or the regional companies, but also to the small SMEs who may be represented here, whatever budget you're coming up with for 2019, allocate a percentage of to market research, at least there to know your market. I always say this: if you're posing to buy a shirt for me, you must find out first whether I like the shirt at all, whether I need a shirt, what color of that I like, what my sizes are, what I don't like, before you propose to sell the shirt to me. So please allocate a certain budget to figure out the people that you're targeting with your products and your services. Do they really want them? Are they meeting their needs? So allocate a certain budget. Out of 100 CDs, allocate 10. Okay, so a certain percentage. And then the other thing that I would urge us to do as a way forward is have what we refer to as a CMI function, consumer market intelligence function, insight function. Have that, not necessarily an exclusive resource, a dedicated resource, but recognize that function in your structure. At least have it as the responsibility of somebody in your organization to find out what the market is saying, what market needs, what your consumers or your customers want. Have that representation somehow in your business structure. And the other thing that I'd like to recommend as a way forward, so that, we leverage on market research, focus on the growth that we go after as organizations, as companies. Let it be a focused growth. Don't just aim to grow, but aim to grow in a focused way. Identify a niche that you will then own and own it completely. Then what that will do for your business is that it will give it longevity or sustainability. That's my intro. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. And I just thought we're noting all the questions down so that when we get the opportunity, we can ask questions after the presentation. We'll move to Francis now. Francis will talk to us on the subject brand equity management an indispensable factor for driving Ghana on aid? Francis. Philip, help me out. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. 2 or 3 things I really want to do. The subject of brand equity is one that has traveled far. Whether you cut your typical marketing chart from Kotler or more recently from people like Brian Sharp. Essentially, I would want us to remind ourselves what brand equity really is, but more importantly, what companies within the space of Ghana today can do to further drive that Ghana Beyond Aid agenda within the marketing profession. And those are the big things that I want us to do in the next 10 minutes. So first of all, why brand equity? And most of us would know because we are within the profession. Brand equity really is about doing a job that creates brand love for whatever product that you are selling out there. So it's really about making people own your brand and making people feel personal about your brand. If you liken it to your country setting, it's really about making people feel patriotic about the country they live in. And once you are able to hit that sweet spot for brand, then you are true to achieving that brand equity that you want. Essentially, it's about the battle for attention, of course. Every brand will shout, or most brands will shout, but the one who shouts the loudest or is most and well understood gets that big equity out. And furthermore, it's all about how brands grow. There is inevitably a vicious cycle of benefits each time you are to drive the right brand equity, no matter what product that you are selling. First of all, obviously increases your brand loyalty. Now, again, if you increase your brand loyalty, then it gives you the edge for you to be able to do things like premiumization, where you can charge a little more for your brand by increasing the benefits that people get for your brand. You could, for example, get better negotiation or when you go into stores where you have to do listing and those kind of marketing. Initially, like I said, it's really about making sure that your brand remains at the heart of the people that you serve, and that is where you say you are driving true brand equity. So if I ask in this room, always will be some brands who, whether it is in the past or currently, have built irrevocable memories in our minds that we cannot erase. Now, for example, if we took Golda, everybody has known Golda for years long that it's the ultimate in beer, and you will never, thanks, and you are never going to miss that. That is because of the kind of equity they have built over the years. If I say SM, it's obviously going to be the nation's builder. That's because they have built a certain kind of equity over the years. If I said Key Soap, you would say Amansan Boafo. If I said Club, you would always say Beer Dear and Noani Club. Now, those are the essential components of brand equity that we are talking about. Things that when you do, you can leave your brand for the next 100 years and still sell themselves because you created that equity years ago. And that is what these brands are enjoying. Fortunately or unfortunately, the journey that consumers take in the past in getting to this position brand love for our product has changed a bit with the advent of technology. And he rightly said that research is at the heart of this. So the earlier we get to anticipate the consumer journey, the better it is for us, because then you can really dwell on the touch points of your consumer's journey and ensure that you are catching them at the right moments and at the right places to be able to drive your brand equity. Like in the past, it was always a linear equation of you see an advert on TV or you hear by word of mouth, you go in store, you find a point of sale material that reminds you about what you probably have seen on TV, or whilst driving to the store you found an outdoor or a billboard that reminds you. Now you go, you pick the products you use, and then you are done. These days there are countless number of channels that people get to experience, and that influences the final decision they make at the purchase point. So even within your influencing space, bloggers are there. There are always going to be websites. There are always going to be reviews. I'm sure there are so many of us here who, when we go to the store or the iStore, you'd always look out for people's reviews before you even download the app. That is how much the consumer journey has changed. So if you are sitting in the linear space of traditional media, then you go to anything reinforcement by word of mouth, and then you go to point of sale, and then through the, then you are missing it. It's really important that as marketers, we get to see through research, of course, what changes have come through in the space of the consumer journey so that we are able to touch them at the right points. And then only we will get the sweet spot that we are looking for. Of course, we are not oblivious as professionals to the fact that although there might be a wide variety of options available to you, of course, depending on the consumer journey, there is only so little that you always have as your A&P budget. So at the heart of it is really prioritizing the channel and your consumer journey, and then making sure you invest in the right priorities that you have chosen, and then you are driving this long term. Now, that's a bit of reminding ourselves of what we already know as marketeers in the space of brand equity. But for me, and more importantly, what are some of the things that we can do, to be able to drive the agenda of Ghana Beyond Aid as marketeers? And it's really about driving a brand equity agenda that ultimately enhances lives of our people. I think we really need to start getting out of the space of traditional media, thematic executions on TV, which are just flash on there, whether on radio or TV, without any impact on lives. I'll give you a number of examples. If you take one of the brands in my company, for example, Pepsodent. In the last 10 years, we have embarked on a social mission which says that we are going to improve the oral health of people. Of course, if we don't do anything behind Pepsodent, it can't sell in the next 5 to 10 years without it. In any case, every oral brand in this country is called Pepsodent. So we have told ourselves, whether we do this or not, we would sell. But what is the footprint that we are leaving as a brand in the society that we live in? So we have embarked in the last 10 years on a campaign that says we'll go into schools and inculcate into them the habit of brushing twice in a day, because that would help to eliminate the issue of oral health. They spend longer hours in school and they ultimately grow with the right skill that they need to develop in the country. That is clearly an example of a brand who says that I can stay in my comfort zone and do what I normally do because I'm going to grow anyway, but I'll venture a bit out there, and these things cost a lot of money, by the way. I mean, the budget that goes into social mission for Pepsodent, for example, is nowhere near what we pump behind AMP. It's just about some 25% of it. We really, as marketers, to start thinking into brand equity activities that does well, but also by doing good to the people who live in the country. In any case, most of these aids that we go for end up being used for, and we have all heard a bit about naming one social intervention that one government has brought the other. But once we get into this cycle of our brands in country alleviating those social interventions or bringing in those social interventions that, for example, frees government to use some of those resources for more driving adventure or more driving objectives for the country, instead of keeping to most of our traditional things that we do, and then we would have a government that has to come and borrow and then drive those social agenda for us. So that's really how we as marketeers can also go through Ghana Beyond Aid. Quite a lot of examples that I have on my sheet, but I'll not bore you with all of them. But just example, if you thought about MTN Heroes of Change, that's another example. It's really about finding those in our community and in our societies who are doing good to people and pushing them a step higher so that they can scale those businesses up. If you thought about your Vodafone Vim example, same. It's really about equipping people with those essential skills and crafts they need to better their lives. If they are made better and improved, they can earn on their own, and then they stop dealing on others or depending on aid. If you thought about our week, who says that every bottle of water you buy, a certain percentage is donated to cardio center so that it helps someone with a health issue. All of these are building brand equity, but the truth is that they are doing that well by doing good to people's lives. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Francis. We'll move to our next discussion as Andrew Waka, talking to us of the marketing communications, visibility drive for Ghana Beyond Aid. Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Usually tough to the last speaker when everybody has said everything else that you plan to say. But I'll try my best to put this thought across. Since the Honorable Minister started with the quotation, I also start with quotation. I would say something briefly about the economy, because you talked about the economy. I strongly believe that have very strong marketing and to have a very strong body, or as an industry we need to have very strong economic fundamentals. So I'll speak briefly about that. Then I'll look at on three very important opportunities that there are within the industry for us to leverage on and to grow and to build our industry. Then I would also charge our honorable minister on a certain critical aspect of this Ghana Beyond Aid the government can help, to propagate. So look, I'll start with a quote. So this was a quote by Our Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo during the Independence celebration, and this is what he said about Ghana Beyond Aid. He said it requires a deliberate qualitative change in all aspects of our lives, especially in the structure of our economy, the nature of our infrastructure, the education of young people, and acquisition of skills, and above all, our attitude and holding firm to the values that defines us. I don't know if you've had 101 economics, but this is actually the formula for GDP. So I'll try and break it down simply. So for the economy to grow, right? And if we don't grow, we can't even talk about marketing. So for the economy to grow, people need to consume goods and services. So the GDP formula, as you see, is what people, individuals like us, we consume, what the government spends, what industry or firms spend as investment in producing the goods and services that we consume, and then our net export, which is whether we're expecting more or less. So I will do just a bit of simple exercise. I mean, you let me know whether you like this or not, and then I'll move on with the economics very quickly. So who would want to buy goods and services made in Ghana? Okay, all right, interesting.
Very interesting.
But but the other side is most of the stuff consumed are exported, are imported. Sorry, right? Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So that means that we need consumers to consume goods that we produce, right? The reason why Philip talked about industrialization and we are not moving forward because the goods and services that we produce are not made here, so we cannot industrialize. So that's a big bottleneck that we need to resolve. Now the government would also spend, whether you like it or not, they will spend on us, our education, utility, whatever, but they will also spend on other things. If the government to produce bridges and roads, they would have to use raw materials. Is the government spending all this money to buy raw materials and services within the country, or the government is also importing them? So if you look at the formula to make sure that we grow and GDP grows, I'll quote Dan Latte, we need to produce what we eat, and eat what we grow. So that is the fundamental, and the government is the only one in this formula that can actually perpetuate this, and it does this by enacting very strong policies that enable industry to grow. Where's my phone? I would state some staggering facts that I actually gathered on my Joe News, and this is quite interesting. It says $200 million worth of sugar is imported into our country yearly. Okay, it also states 60% fish we eat in Ghana is imported. It states that Ghana imports 99.5 million worth of tomatoes every year. And it says that currently Ghana imports $1.2 billion worth of rice into our country. These are goods and services that we consume. So if we're importing, we cannot grow industry, and because of that we can't grow economy. So there are fundamental economic principles that we need to take into consideration if we need to realize this Ghana Beyond Aid. But the charge here is that we as consumers should also be inspired to be able to part in this industrial revolution if we are to make it work. Now, if you look at marketing communication, assume that the goods and services that consumed is made in Ghana, or Mati is made in Ghana, or mix it with even imported. If you look at the array of, if you look at our marketing industry, it's easier for legacy brands, okay, your Univers, your Diageo's, your ABI's, your Coca-Cola, to propagate their branding agenda, whether they are built brand or they're selling and all of that, because the fundamentals are there. Now, if we take Ghana goods and services, most of them don't understand what marketing is about. Sure, you see a lot of adverts for Ghanaian goods and you wonder what this is all about, right? So they are unstructured. If we don't grow economy for goods and services to be produced, we do not have a job. All we have to do is to keep competing amongst ourselves with global legacy brands. So economy would have to work to enable marketing to flourish. Now, if you look at marketing communication as a discipline, there are three things which are changing quite rapidly. One is disruption, okay, and this is basically this is coming out of convergence. So your mobile phone is your doctor T, it is your ShopRite, it is actually your teacher, it is your map, it is everything. So the whole world is now in your hands, and because of that, our human behavior has changed dramatically. So it is disrupting the traditional channels that you would choose for marketing, television, radio, out of home, and all of that. Because of digital, it's transformed everything that we do. So therein lies the opportunity for us to take advantage of this, and the huge opportunity. And I'll give you just two statistics. Most businesses or most brands in Ghana spend less than 5% of their marketing budget on digital, right? But digital penetration is 34%. So where's the gap come from? A lot of people are spending time on digital, but we are not spending and we are not meeting the target where we have to. Two reasons for that. One is there is a lack of skill in space, so therein lies the opportunity for us to invest in skill. This is quite technical, and brands and businesses and marketing agencies like us would have to invest in there so that we can actually help make decisions in the boardroom when it comes to why we need to spend a lot on digital. So disruption is quite critical and is driven by digital. Philip talked about research data. Now data, I'm sure most of you would have heard, is the new currency, right? Because traditional data still works, but your data on the internet in some cloud somewhere is quite staggering. Okay, so your digital fingerprint is everywhere. You do not know, but your email address is out there, your phone number is out there, everything about you is out there once you are on the internet. And there are companies who have this data who can use to target consumers critically. But how to analyze this to make sure that I'm not just chewing data, but I'm actually deriving meaningful insight is also quite critical. It needs a lot of technical skills there. It's also good that we have the right to information so that data cannot be abused by markets and the populace. So there's huge opportunity in the data space, so we can use to form what we need to do. Then again, traditional marketing has always been, let me tell you about my print services, and go out there and buy. Now it's a dialogue, and who controls the dialogue? It is the consumer. Okay, so the consumer constantly needs to be engaged, and because of the disruption and the proliferation of all these digital touchpoint from social media and all of that, there's huge opportunity. Okay, so a traditional way of thinking about marketing has changed, and we should change that to mean until we are able to engage consumer meaningfully and allow them dialogue with us. They're social curators now. You cannot tell your story about the brand without involving your consumers. Otherwise, you're not going to get people to buy into that. So therein lies huge opportunity for us not to think just traditional media, but to think about, through the line. We're thinking, media channels, think about, BTL activation. So marketing, as it was segregated, is now becoming one. You need to think about everything else within that to make that you're reaching your target wall. Now, the two things that I strongly believe that the government can do, more than two, but our minister just plays two at your. The first is yesterday I heard about the Right to Information Bill being in Parliament for quite a lot, about 8 years. Yes. So the Advertising Association of Ghana also have a bill, and we've also been in the queue for quite a while. And since laws govern how industry functions, we've been trying to push this to Parliament. Lady before the Parliament is being out, but this is quite important. The two key things in the law which is going to change now. You have an industry and you have control and you have ownership. It's quite critical. So this is going to determine who owns the industry. And I think that as Ghanaians, we should want to propagate and we should try to protect ourselves by owning that marketing space. So that's very critical. Two, I'm pretty certain that most of you, watch advert, and again, you're quite livid and angry about the quality of the advertising. And because of that, the Food and Drugs Board is clamping down even on brands who are, actually disciplined by themselves, because some of those content out there are not worthy to be advertised. They are not researched properly, and they're giving out false information. So the law is actually going to cure that. And, we've, during our Gongo Awards, the Honorable Minister actually gave us the assurance that he's going to look at this. The one particular thing which actually is on my heart, which I really believe that, again, the authorities can do something about it. I'm sure some of you don't realize, but our city is actually filthy with billboards. Filthy with billboards. So we did research quite recently, one of my businesses, and there are 7,000 billboards in Accra. 7,000 billboards in Accra and Tema alone. If you look at Spinks, they are close to over 400 billboards. How do you drive from your home and you're coming to your office and you see how many brands you purchase a day for you to have all these billboards there? And they are filthy. Beyond that, Honorable Minister, look at all the bridges, all the interchanges, all these stickers, and the major culprits are, the churches, political parties, YA classes, all these. Everyone is using that space, right, to stick stuff that don't, so one key agenda in the Ghana Beyond Aid is beautifying Accra. And I think if you're able to keep this billboard menace, and it's a mess to our industry, everyone is complaining about, we need to restructure that, and we need to, make sure that we pass these laws that enable us to plan out of home as part of the steps of the city and not just pull anything out there, to advertise. So I would also end here from my economic to my, I hope the churches don't come after me, but they are the major culprits, and we need to make sure that we clamp down on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and let's dance together for the story. I have quick questions for all of you, then after that I'll tend to the audience here. Philip, I'm starting with you. You talk about manufacturing and data collection and how market research is very important in this. How will marketing or research, market research really influence that whole agenda of Ghana Aid? What exact role will marketing research play in all that?
Okay. I think, like I said in my presentation, there's a direct link. So the big thing that market research does affect when it comes to economic development is return on investment, because people will put money into a company, into a certain line of business, if they know what they will get out of it. Now, without any information, it will be like throwing money, into some big gaping black hole. You will not know whether anything will come out of it. And actually, what might come out of it actually come and swallow you up. So the information necessary for people to spend money comes through market research. And it is not by coincidence that the most developed countries spend a lot of money on market research, because, and for me it's not a chicken and egg situation. No. If we collect data, so for instance, before I start a business, if I collect information about the market and about the target group that, that I'm made for, then I will strategize better. I think that's how it's supposed to work. I don't think it's supposed to work the other way around. So for me, it's not a chicken and egg situation. So that's it. Inflation that influences investment. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Francis, brand equity, and you said that's the brand love, of attachment you have for the brand. What critical thing are we supposed to do, as in Ghana, to ensure that that brand, Ghana Beyond Aid, is loved by everybody, irrespective of where that person is coming from in terms of the party or what? That everybody believes and loves that kind of brand, Ghana Beyond Aid. Philip, help me on this.
My natural instincts would have been to that agenda to be driven by marketeers and not politicians. But that's on the other side. Because Two things, because number one, I think we need to strip that agenda through whether you want to call it the 4 P's or the 7 P's of marketing. That's number one. Because then we are going through the rudiments of what we need to show as a country before people start generating that brand love for us. That's number one. Number two, we need to be consistent in what we say we are and shout about it the loudest. Because if you ask any Ghanaian today what our country is best known for, I doubt if we would have that one single thing that we'll talk about. That's number two. And then finally, even when we shout certain things, we are so inconsistent that there is not an equilibrium between what we say we are and what we actually do. And once you don't get that equilibrium, you never get that brand love coming through. So if you ask me, these are the three things, of course, in addition to minutes being run by marketeers and not politicians, these are the three basic things I think we really need to do if we want to drive that Ghana Beyond agenda.
Thank you very much. And my final question goes to Andrew. Brand miscommunication creates a lot of problems, especially for the brand and the companies. What kind of strategy in terms of marketing communication can we put in place to ensure that that understanding of Ghana Beyond Aid, not only at the top, but everybody really understands when we talk about what Ghana Beyond Aid is all about?
Okay, I'm trying to figure out if I understand your question. But I think people will be happy if the factories are coming up. Because they know there's more jobs and they know there'll be more products and services that will be coming out. So it's not about miscommunication, it's about doing the things that we need to do, because it's based on this that you can foster communication around that. And just like any brand, if your fundamentals are strong, if you are building a purpose, if you lead to growth, it's very easy to energize people around you. It's very easy to get brand ambassadors because they believe in your brand, because they know it is real, it is happening. So, you know, and I'm sure as marketers we've heard this over and over and over again, that no matter how loud you shout about a brand, the quality is not that great. It's just another story that you're putting out there. So, I mean, this clarion call is actually on all of us. How can we put our shoulders to it to make sure that we are building? Until we build, we create, until we produce, until we make meaningful sense in all the economic numbers. It'll be tough to galvanize that energy, right? And that's why I strongly believe the call is a good one, is a great one, and be backed by real actions that would begin to turn into meaningful results. And they say when the and casa. So when this happens, it makes it very easy to build very, very strong communication, around that. But the core of this clarion call actually is, I mean, if you look at all the statements, is actually on us as people, right? And I think that we are all burdening the government for government this and government this and government that. The core of this message is that we as a people, right, what can we do to make sure that we start, so it's a chicken and egg situation. Everybody's waiting for the government to ban chicken before I start producing. I'm waiting for rice to be banned before, I go to Aveime and start producing rice. It's a chicken and egg situation. But I think the deeper essence of this call is that we as a people, and we control this economy. We buy the goods and services, whether it's coming from China or India and all of that. And we can play a very essential part in making sure that we are to the reins of this GDP that we are talking about, and we are getting ourselves into it. It's more, I see it more of an inspiration for us to do something rather than for us to go out there and propagate, the theme just Ghana Beyond Aid. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And over to you now. You raise your hand. When you get the opportunity, you tell us your name, and if you represent any institution, we'll be able to know that. Can we have a microphone? There's a hand at the back there, please. And you also tell us who the question is directed to.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Emmanuel Nikwe, member of the governing board of CIMG. My question goes to the Minister of Information. Talking about
the Minister of Information is not part of our discussion here.
It's still here. So yeah.
So I'm wondering how he's really going to...
Yeah, it's not a difficult question. You'll be able to handle it.
Okay.
Well, it's about, maybe it's just a follow-up to what my colleague talked about, the brand lab. Now, if we realize that the agency within government that will propagate the Ghana Beyond Aid will be the Brand Ghana office. And currently, we don't hear anything. As marketeers, we don't hear anything about the Brand Ghana office. So I want to find out from him, if there's any agency within government that will push the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda within the country, that would imbibe the values within the country, it's the Brand Ghana office. And it's like it's dead. So we want to find out if the Brand Ghana office exists and who is currently in charge. That's my question.
Thank you very much. And the minister is not part of our discussions here, so we try as much as possible, not even try as much as possible. We're not asking him questions. We are focusing on our discussions here, so let's keep that. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Melvin from Daily Guy. I write for Daily Guy. I have two questions. One is on the brand equity. If I rightly hear the guy say brand equity, also when you link it to the national level, it's about patriotism. But in Ghana, we know that whenever you start to speak for maybe on political issues, you are seen to be maybe in favor of the government of the day, you are tagged either as an MPP or as an NDC. So with respect to that, how do marketers who intend to market their Ghana Beyond Aid can be protected against being tagged as either for the government of the day or being against the government of the day? And then my second question goes to the marketing communication aspect. And now people who are employed in the political circle to manage government communications are mostly serial callers. People are not professional marketers. How can that not affect negatively the Ghana Beyond Aid market strategy from the professional perspective? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll pick one more question, then I'll allow our guests here. There's a hand from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Harrison Abutiate, a past president. You're the communication man. Your observation about the so many billboards, actually something that needn't be difficult thing to do. Yes, because apart from the billboards, there are some of these signs, okay, maybe there are also little billboards somewhere, at the junctions now, that which are blocking drivers to wherever they are going. And like you said, there may be about 40 or 50 of them at one junction. So you ask yourself, what is the essence of that? Because now we have street names. We have street names and we have house numbers. I don't think in developed countries we see such spectacle. So I think now is the time to remove all those signs and rather concentrate on making the street names bigger and more visible, and of course with the house numbers as is practiced in advanced countries. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, let's pick one more question. Let's just pick one more question here. There's a hand here.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Yvette Adunvo Atekpe. I have always believed that of the 7 Ps, people is the most important. If we are looking at Ghana Beyond Aid, what in your opinion, and this goes to the entire panel, what in your opinion can we do to actually change the psyche, of the Ghanaian to ensure that we can go on? Because for me, that's important. Without people, we won't be able to do any of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me move to Francis. I'm starting with you. The whole political aspect, so that marketers will not be tagged being from party A, party B, because you are championing Ghana Beyond Aid. Philip.
Sorry. So that's the question around how we develop this so that people are not tagged necessarily. I mentioned it on a lighter note earlier in my statement, but really serious about it. We need to move this to a professional level. someone has just spoken about Brand Ghana, until we approach this from a bipartisan lens and really say, you marketeers and professionals, handle it and let's go. That's number one. Number two, it is essential we all understand that Ghana Beyond Aid, or brand equity for that matter, is not an event, it's a process. And we have had successive leaders and governments who have couched one plan, then when they move on, another person couches another plan. Then we are making it an event and not a process. So I'm sure many of you would have heard about Vision 2020 when we were much younger than we are now. 2020 is only 2 years away from this year, and we have no idea where this or where that plan has gone so far. And here we are talking about, and I hear the Honorable Minister say we are couching another charter for Ghana Beyond Aid. Until we get into the space of knowing that this is a process and not an event, we will always be tagged as whether we are MP or NDC or that party or that party. So these are my 2 points really on how we can go this way without necessarily being tagged.
You had her question too, changing the psyche of Ghanaians.
Look, in my mind, the big reason why someone would be so patriotic to his brand is because he knows there is an obligation the state owes to him in the end. And that is why I say it's important that as marketeers we start building our equity in such a way that we change lives so that it frees government to use resources on those important things. So for example, if I am going through school and at an early age I know that there are enough industries springing out there, and that if I go through all of my education in my national service, I am guaranteed some decent life, then I'll not think about cutting corners irrespective of being patriotic to get to where I want to be. And that's, ask me, that's really the focus of it. How do we tell these people that, and let me give you a clear example. I have gone on a simple research where I wanted to change the shape of a soap that I sell. I'll not mention the soap for good reasons. And the consumer literally held the soap and said, you want to change my bar. And like that was it. I was like, okay, project's done. I'm not even going to touch it anymore, because she spoke about it as her bar. She didn't call the name of the brand. It says my bar. And that was the end for me. So until we get people to know that, look, when I use this bar, this is the ultimate benefit I get out of it, and that's really important for me, then I wouldn't cut corners trying to pet with other brands or trying to move to other countries to find greener pastures. And that is when people really become the center of the Ghana Beyond Aid.
How do we get people to really think along that line?
It's education, if you ask me. It's really about education and really starting from the rudiments. I mean, these days, and we are all guilty of that. I have 2 kids. They speak English more fluently than speak Tree. When my mother or my mother-in-law visits, she gets piqued about the fact that they can't speak one clay line of Fanti, but can rattle English language as if they were living in the Queensland. So it really from down there, how do we grow our educational system in such a way that we inculcate this habit into our people?
Okay. Philip, the psyche of Ghanaians to really understand Ghana Beyond Aid and move with it.
Okay. I think I'd like to answer it on different levels. So when we talk about people being at the heart of the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, for me, I think of it on several levels. So first, when it comes to governance, I think that in Ghana, the democratic process works, if you ask me. And why I say that is because the elections are normally peaceful, and we do see changes in government happening peacefully. And I think in sub-Saharan Africa, that's a big deal. So for me, when it comes to governance, I would say that to some extent, to a great extent, people do have a say in which party or which president comes to lead them. So I think they are a heart of governance in that respect. Now, when it comes to governance, so after a government is in office, then I think one of the things that I like to see that would, for me, prove that people are at the heart of governance is if people, and I think Kojo has started some initiative on that, if people's voices are heard, if people are given a chance to participate, to comment, to input into the developmental changes that are happening, then that's a good thing, and I've seen that happening. So, for instance, one of the things that will happen soon, that like I said, Kojo has initiated, is that the Ghanaian citizenry will be able to give their opinions about the different ministries, the different things that the government is doing, and that those things would be made public. So I think that's important. When you demonstrate to people that your voices are being heard, then that for me is something that works. I think it's a two-pronged process. Obviously, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to the market, it's about listening to the voice of the consumer, taking them seriously, like my colleague has just said, then that puts them at the heart of it. Yeah, that's what I think.
All right. So, Andrew, I have 3 questions. The first one's to do with the effective communication of government activities. And he talked about where serial callers are actually the ones communicating government programs, and the billboard issue, then changing the psyche of Ghanaians.
Okay, I'll tackle the billboard issues, and I'll reveal some other staggering statistics for you. So out of the 7,000 billboards that we gathered in Accra, 87% of them were not marked. If not marked, it means that we don't know who owns them. Okay, the few that are available, from your DDPs to your Aerofix to your Global Alliance, and the SARE, and the rest, they only constitute a minority of them. Now, the first question I would say is that how did marketers or brands identify who owns that board, put their brands there? Because you're supposed to mark them. That's a very critical question that the authorities need to answer. And that is the starting point of cleaning the industry. Because we don't know who owns these billboards. And trust me, we have been here for quite a while. We don't know who owns them. Somebody owns something that is owned by somebody that is being supervised by somebody who is sitting in Shinyani. Meanwhile the billboard is in Accra. So until we get to a point where the authority actually puts its feet down and clean the system, and the AG, together with, there's a special committee for out of home, have been interacting with AMA and KMA and, LECMA and all of that for years and years and years. It's a very, very painful exercise. They cut the boards. The next morning, people start, pouring concrete at dawn. The next one, the billboard is up again. So it's a very serious issue that I think we need to put our feet down and clean once and for all. And it goes, again, what are the bylaws that guides, putting out billboards and all that? We need to make sure that we are firm on some of these things if we want to beautify city as it is captured in there. Again, and I hope the churches don't come to me. Q2, okay, which is April, May, June, right? Out of the 7,000 billboards, you wouldn't give it 25% of them were all churches. Now, number one in terms of per square meter when it comes to advertising exposure. Now, we live in a country where we are talking about marketing, and churches actually lead when it comes to marketing themselves. I mean, there's something critical, there's something quite strange happening, in our space. Yeah. So anytime here, laws would have to be put in place to curb churches from expanding. I mean, if I say it was quite, quite blasphemous. But they've taken over the TV and radio. They've taken over the billboards. They've taken over the interchanges. They're sticking papers everywhere. I mean, it's ridiculous, to be honest. I mean, that is not how you grow a nation. That's not how the church is industry now, so we need to take it seriously. Marketeers, we need to figure out how we sell products and services to churches, because they are already out there and they are beating brands. Yes. To marketing. So there's a lot of work that has to be done in the outdoor space. When it comes to the psyche of Ghanaians is as difficult as a compulsory physics questions. Because you don't know where to start, right? I would take it from design, okay? And I'll take one African country, and you look at Rwanda. I mean, they went through a very traumatizing situation as a country. But look at the way they bounce back. And I'll say it's about leadership. I would start from leadership. Everyone can be inspired to do anything if they believe in the leadership and, a client like, Ghana Beyond. We need to believe in something. Otherwise, we can't change our psyche. You know, so I'll put it squarely at the feet of leadership. Leadership just by words, but leadership by changing the fundamentals. I mean, take our educational institution. I would say it's quite intriguing. I mean, we are not training people to produce. We talk about economic formula. We are not training people to produce in services, right? So how we need to change fundamental. And you move beyond education, you know, you go to every space and you realize that we need to, you know, overhaul, you know, very important aspect of our economy if we want to grow. Because they say numbers don't lie. These GDP numbers, they lie. I mean, they are there. Until we change, it'll be quite tough. And then the question on
serial callers, government communication.
On serial callers and communication, I would put it at neutral. Okay, so I mean, the country is literally split into two. You have people who speak against it and people who not speak. People who speak for it and people who speak against it. It's not a battle of who wins the airwaves and who shouts the loudest and all of that. I'll reiterate this. I think that the fundamentals or the essence of Ghana Beyond Aid must be established first. Once that is established and we are all called upon to pick it up and support and run with, we wouldn't need serial callers to be misinterpreting the essence of it. We would be the ambassadors of this, you know, because we would be benefiting. I'll be producing rice and hopefully I hope that I can retire still young and start some farming, you know, or I'll be producing chicken. And I know poultry farmers have been crying on end to revive that industry. Though for me, those are the things that would begin to bring some meaning, to the clarion call.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll take the next batch of questions. There's a hand there. We'll take this one, that one. Sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah.
My name is Mustafa Idrisu from UPSA. My question goes to Andrew and the big man from Unilever.
Francis
from Unilever. I want us to move away from the concept of products, because when you look at what the Minister for Information said, we're talking about Ghana Beyond Aid. And one of the critical areas that can move Ghana Beyond Aid is the tourism sector. But if I ask a question in this room, how many of us as Ghanaians can just take the initiative that I am going on a tour to one particular place, it will be a problem. Are we leaving our tourism sector to only foreigners? Or we would want Ghanaians to adopt the habits of domestic tourism? I recently visited the Vley Falls, and once you are getting over there, there are places where you need to take a rest. All the seats are broken. So by the time you get to the falls, you are exhausted. Now I want to know how can brand our tourism sector and how we can communicate that brand so that somebody who is traveling from Tamale to Wa will know very well that there is a Moli game reserve that has more animals than the safari in Kenya. But people visit safari in Kenya than people visit Moli Game Reserve.
Okay.
How do we brand that, and how do we use marketing communications so that we can use it as a tool to move Ghana beyond the aid that we're talking of?
All right, thank you very much. There's one hand there. Yeah.
Right, thank you. My name is Kelan from UPSA. So my question goes to Andrew. We met about 2 weeks ago in UPSA. I was talking about integrated marketing communications. Okay, so on the same Ghana Beyond Aid, the president is talking about Ghana Beyond Aid. What is the DC is talking about? What is the managers of state-owned enterprises talking about What is the settlement talking about? All the structure. And what does Ghana Beyond Aid mean to them? So I think as marketers, just starting the conversation so that we can look at how to integrate these different levels of communication so that the Ghanaian population will begin to appreciate what we really mean by what Ghana Beyond Aid. Besides that, we know that the other piece of marketing also communicates, and that is why we're calling for an integration. So besides just telling people Ghana Beyond Aid, what are the key activities that government itself? I'm happy the minister today indicated Ghana Beyond Aid is not to say that we will not do. Okay, so clearly we need to begin to see some other indices across the 7 Ps. And how do we provide these informations as marketers? That will be our role to government, develop some of these things and communicate well, and we will all benefit from the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. I don't know whether my question is clear to you. Contribution is clear to you, but I would like you to build on it because you are more expert in communications.
All right.
Right.
Thank you very much. There's one hand here in front.
Good evening. I think mine is a contribution regarding the billboards and
Your name is?
sorry, Stephanie Ado.
Okay.
The billboards. I think one of our issues, the issue we have in Ghana is enforcement. We have all the laws, but it's about enforcement. Because there is, you find business on the street with contact numbers. Why cannot call these people in and find them? This is revenue right there to help us clean the streets. But we leave them obscene banners and all kinds, and we drive past them all the time, and nothing is said. If he put concrete there, if you put, I can't buy your space, it's my brand there, it's an illegal space. If you pull down my billboard, I'll be out with the agency. We need to just check things and enforce. We just need to enforce. But it's just because somebody will know this person and know that we will have all the ideas, but if we are unable, if we are not willing to enforce and discipline people, none of these initiatives will stand. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Marketing communications, how to get everybody to understand. The DC, the Assemblyman, the head of state institutions, then tourism too.
Yes, that should be a very strong aspect of the governing machinery to be able to propagate this. Because Ghana Beyond Aid is the core, okay? But I'm sure that every district can have an essence in it. You have one district, one factory, okay? So every district would know there's something in this for me. How do I help entrepreneurs or how do I help business owners within my district to make sure X, Y, Z happen? How do I make sure I talk to my DC and all of that, you know, my people to make sure that we keep the place clean? So cost of would have to be okay, right? You know, hotel prices, it's ridiculous. 5-star hotels in some of the best city in the world, you can pay $120. I don't want to mention it. Like, I'm going to a resort, it's $250. For me, and a family of, my family side is also not small, so we are 6, and I'm supposed to spend about
of coupling it from a concept, because if you understand what he said carefully, it goes through the rudiments of the same 6 P's. That's why I say it is essential that we need to get into a space where it is reached by professionals. So if it is these are part of the product, then we know we need to fix the product before we go to
is unnecessarily. So then the thing I want to say is, for me, I see tourism as a function of 3 things that are critical. First of all, facilities and infrastructure that need to be in place. Like we've just learned, the product has to speak the brand. So products where facilities and infrastructure, big one. Then